Yeah, we did that. I see that. The mic wasn't on. That's all right. We just got all that stupid stuff out of the way. High Noon Show, Monday through Friday, noon to whenever. This is the first of two streams that we do. We do the Pugs and Parker with E stream. That comes out at 9 o'clock. That's a bit more lighthearted, a bit more fanciful, a bit more conversational, fun, just a bunch of guys talking. We get into topics, we get into subjects. But, this show, the Monday through Friday stream, High Noon Report with me, Pugs Moran. This is more about current events, hot topics, trends, headlines, whatever it is that's happening in the world, I'm going to bring it to you. I'm going to tell you what it is. I'm going to tell you why people are talking about it. And then I'm going to give you a hot take. And then we move on. The show, as always, runs on your tips, your gratuities. Drop a little something in there if you appreciate the show. If you stop by from time to time, say thank you. Treat me like a bartender. Treat me like a barista. That's how we continue doing these shows. Venmo, Cash App, available right there at the bottom of the screen. You guys are wonderful. Thank you so much. It has to be said. All right, what else? We got Byron. What's up, Byron? We got Barney. We got Whitney. We got Cameron. We got Leslie. We got Jeff. We got Al. Everybody is coming into the chat room now. Grab your beanbag chair and form your soul circle of life. Join hands and let's all try to make this a pleasurable experience for all involved. That's what I say. All right, what do you say we get done with all that nonsense? Hold on a second. Hold on. Need some coffee. Just realized how dirty my coffee. Look at it, I spilled coffee all over it. It's dirty. That's like coffee from yesterday. I gotta wash my coffee cup. That's gross. Good coffee. All right. I'm trying to think, is there anything that I want to jump into first before we get started with today's show? Here's how the show works. I should tell you this. We do go through all the trends and current events and all that stuff. The big topics of this here very day. But before we do that, we like to go back in time. We like to find out the stuff that also occurred in, previous editions of this particular day. We look for trends. We look for things that happened. Oh, the same thing happened in 1450 as happened in 1790 as happened in 1960, right? It's like, whoa, look at those 3 things. That's weird. And then we go through some of the birthdays. We celebrate people who were born unto this plane of existence on this very day. And then we mourn some of the passings of those who have left us. And after we've done the events, the births, and the passings, I feel like we're like, okay, I know what this day has been. So let's move forward now and find out what this day is. And to that end, it is high noon for the 4th day of May, year of our Lord 2023. Hey, a good sign that all is returning back to normal. Hiccups is that I just got hiccups. Yep, saw it coming, felt it brewing. You know how this goes. Oh, it's always something with me, I know. It's either my allergies or, okay, it's almost always my allergies. Oh, no, my ankle. Remember I sprained my ankle a couple weeks ago? That wasn't good. But our old friend who we can depend on, when everything else is fine, I can always be depended upon to get hiccups right about, quarter after noon, just around the time we start the show. Then I have to do about, 3 to 4 minutes of extemporaneous conversation to try and right my own system where I'm just blathering on about absolutely nothing. But you could probably say that's the entire show. So I don't know. Is there a problem? Who knows? It is high noon, as I said, 4th day of May, year of our Lord 2023. It is the 124th day of the year. There are 241 days remaining until the end of the year. I almost hiccuped there, and I stopped it. Hold on. Let me work on some breath stuff. I think it'll work. I can still feel it. Folks, hiccups, because I've been plagued by them my whole life. Hiccups are a mental creation. Hiccups are a physical manifestation of a mental situation. Damn it! There they are. There's another one. There's another one. Fine, we're just going to let them fly. There we go. We're just going to let them fly now. They're out. Now they're coming fast and furious. This is why I'm unemployable. This is exactly why I'm unemployable. Although I don't remember ever being on a corporate man's man radio station and having the hiccups. I think this is all a streaming thing. I think it's this chair. I do. I think it's this chair. Yeah, blame the chair. Don't blame my weird shape. Don't blame the fact that I'm totally out of shape and my breathing patterns are probably not good to begin with. I don't know. Could be anything. Yesterday I was driving in the car and I got the hiccups. And I didn't even fight them. Because sometimes if it's no big deal, just let them go. Just let them fly. And I'm driving down the car, and they were loud. I was making them loud. I was being very performative with my hiccups because I'm talking to myself as I'm suffering this hiccup attack as I'm driving down Lemon Avenue. And I'm going, all right, fine. You want a hiccup? And I do it really loud to make it really fine. We're hiccuping now. What? Like that. And I know what you're saying. You're saying, Pugs, you've been talking now for a good 4 or 5 minutes, and we understand that you're trying to suppress hiccups, but you've not hiccuped once in the entire time that you've been doing. I know, because I'm suppressing them, because they're there. I feel them coming. And then I have to do something like that. All right. You know what? We're just going to motor through. I'm going to take a big swig. That hiccup got out. That hiccup escaped. Yeah, we could talk about that. I hate that. May the 4th be with you. I don't hate it. It's an eye roll. It elicits an eye roll from me. It's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And here's the problem with it. Here's the problem with the whole Star Wars Day, right? Today is Star Wars Day, May the 4th. I'm first ballot. I'm first ballot Star Wars, right? People my age, I was like 7 years old when I went to the movie theater and saw the original Star Wars. And I'm part of that original class that had our asses blown out of the theaters and really do understand why Star Wars is what Star Wars is today. Because we were there for the eruption. We were there for when it started. We remember how big it was. And yeah, as big as Star Wars was in 77, 78, 79, yeah, I totally see how it's still around in 2023. Little much for me, though. Little much. I'm off the start. Look, you know what? I saw the first 3. I saw the first 3 because I was a little kid. And that's like, what I liked as a little kid. And then I was like in my 20s when the next 3 were made. And I wasn't even all that excited. I went and saw them, because whatever, part of the pop culture. I got to be informed as to what people are buzzing about. Didn't love them. Then like the next 3. And then they start just making these like non-canon Star Wars movies, which are just like, like Rogue One and... Now there's a million TV shows. I can't keep up. But the reason this May the 4th thing won't go away is because every year, because Star Wars is still so important with youth culture, every year there's a 14-year-old who's, into this generation of Star Wars. There's a 14-year-old who realizes that May the 4th sounds like May the Force. And it continues. So it gets an eye roll from me because I'm an old head. Because I've been hearing this since like 1978, right? So it's like, yeah. But hey, may the Force be with you. Or may the 4th be with you, I guess is the appropriate way to say it. On this day in 1627, let's go through some of the events. Erstwhile, on May the 4th, on this day in 1626, Dutch explorer Pieter Minunt arrives in New Netherland, present-day Manhattan Island. Yeah, I always like to mention this because it's funny. It's like, New York was the capital city of Northumbria in the north of England. It was York, settled by the Vikings. It was a Viking town. They were ruled by Danelaw, if you know anything about the period. York is an English thing. So New York... It was originally New Amsterdam. It was originally, it was all supposed to be like, there was the Dutch, and then the Brits got involved, and they were like, get out of here, and they changed the name. But it was on this day that the Dutch actually, first found Manhattan and went, this could be a place. On this day in 1776 in Rhode Island, the Rhode Islanders, become the first American colony to renounce allegiance to King George III. Well done, Rhode Island. Don't ever let it be said nothing came out of Rhode Island. They were first up. They stepped up first. Probably because they had their big buddies. They had their big buddies, Virginia and Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. They had their big buddies standing beside them. And their Rhode Island was like the little guy. You want to fight? Meanwhile, he's like got all his, But Rhode Island, good for you, Rhode Island. I don't really know what else I can say about Rhode Island. On this day in 1814, Emperor Napoleon arrives at Porto Ferrario on the island of Elba to begin his exile. The exile of Napoleon on Elba. Wait, was this the big one? No, this wasn't the big one. They tried to put Napoleon away a number of times, but Elba, this is the one where they're like, God, you're popular, but God, you're bad for this country. That was basically the decision made by the power brokers in France. Man, you're super popular. God, you're wrecking this country. You got to go away, and we can't kill you because God, you're so popular. And if we killed you, that would just be such a problem. So you got to go away. So he goes off to Elba, and they put a bunch of fanboys in charge of him. Like it's a prison. It's like a mansion on an island, but it's essentially a prison. He can't leave. And they put all these fanboys guarding him. And over time, Napoleon was like, you are so much more. When I take back this country, you're going to be a general. That kind of stuff. He's sweet-talking them. And he raised an army from exile and went back and attacked France and took it all back because Napoleon was a dude. Napoleon was a dude, man. On this day in 1932, in Atlanta, mobster Al Capone begins serving an 11-year prison sentence for murder, bootlegging, tax evasion. Of course. Tax evasion, that's what they got him on. Couldn't convict him of all of the things that everybody knew that he was into because he was good. But, shitty accountants will trip you up. On this day in 1953, Ernest Hemingway wins the Pulitzer Prize for The Old Man and the Sea. Old Man and the Sea. Of course, the famous line, I wish I was a fish, comes from Old Man and the Sea. No, I don't think it does. I think I wish I was a fish. I think that comes from The Incredible Mr. Limpet, which was a Disney movie starring not Don Lemon, although that'd be great. Don Knotts. On this day in 1959, the first annual Grammy Awards are held. What do you think the 1959 Grammy Awards were like? I bet they were lame. I bet they were, Pat Boone, I don't need that stuff. People like from the 30s getting up, like people you never even heard of. People who had like 3 hits in the 30s getting up. 1959 Grammys. I'll pass. On this day in 1961, the American Civil Rights Movement, the Freedom Riders, began a bus trip through the South. The Freedom Riders, they all got on a bus. And I guess there's been a bunch of movies about Freedom Riders. Mississippi Burning, that's not about Freedom Riders, but it's about what happened to people involved in that. On this day in 1970, Vietnam War. Excuse me. Hold on. You didn't need to hear that. That was an ugly noise. On this day in 1970, the Kent State shootings occurred. The Ohio National Guard sent to Kent State University in Ohio after disturbances in the city of Kent the weekend before, opened fire, killing 4 unarmed students and wounding 9 others. Students were protesting the Cambodian campaign of the United States and South Vietnam. Yeah, that was a big one. Kent State. Kent State, that's not even a college anymore. Now it's Kent, right? Now it's Kent of Ohio or something. What is Kent State called now? They changed their name. Bad branding. Bunch of National Guard kills a bunch of fully paid tuition students. And, that ain't good. Kent, what is Kent State called now? Kent State University. It's going to redirect me to whatever it's called now. Apparently it's still called Kent State University, but they go by Kent. They don't call it. It's not, when the football team plays, it's Kent. They don't really use Kent State anymore. I could see why. But it appears that it's still called Kent State University. All right. A lot of people, Frank's like my cousins went to Kent State. A lot of people went to Kent State. A lot of people. Joe Walsh was at Kent State when that all went down. A bunch of famous people. Let's see here. What else do we have? On this day in 1973, the 108-story Sears Tower in Chicago was topped off at 1,451 feet. 51 feet, marking it the world's tallest building for a time. Hey, we had the biggest building in the world for a time. For a lot longer than I think the record books recognize it as well, because there was a period of time throughout the early 2000s when the Sears Tower was still technically the tallest building in the world. It's just that there were these like buildings in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, the Petronas Towers, I think they're called, something like that. They were technically taller because they had like an antenna that went like, but it wasn't occupiable floors. The occupiable floors is what we go on. World's tallest building, occupiable floors. You could put a 3,000-foot tower on top of a building, but if nobody can go up on that tower, it's not really part of the building now, is it? No, I'm never going to call it the Willis Tower. Yeah, I know. It's the Willis Tower. No, it's not. Nobody in Chicago calls it the Willis Tower. It's still the Sears Tower. It's still the way that we know what direction we're heading in. Where's the tower? Do you see the tower? All right, so we're south of the tower. So you see the tower. All right, south, that's north. And then you always know that the lake is east, so it's pretty easy not to get lost. The tower, the Sears Tower is great. Sears Tower is great for your directions. Where's the tower? Where am I? All right, tower's that way. So I got to walk that way. Just a nice little thing. On this day in 1989, the Iran-Contra affair. Former White House aide Oliver North is convicted of 3 crimes and acquitted of 9 other charges. The convictions are later overturned on appeal. That's a hero, huh? That's a military hero for you. Oh, he's a good soldier. Good soldier, Oliver North was. Oh, he didn't rat. He's a soldier. You march him into war, you give him orders, he's going to do it. He is going to bend over and spread those proud military cheeks for a whole bunch of elected corrupt politicians who never served one goddamn day. But Oliver North is going to serve them proudly, sir. That's some bullshit. Oliver North was a good military man who got absolutely used and abused and scapegoated by a bunch of corrupt politicians. A bunch of corrupt politicians who would exploit the military for years and years to come. These very same people. What did Oliver North do? Oliver North came up with a scheme. All right, so just to go back in time, Reagan was worried about communism in Central America, Nicaragua, Sandinistas, all that kind of stuff, okay? El Salvador, all of those problems, we remember them. If you're from the 80s, you remember the endless encroachment of communism in Central America. It's a big concern of Reagan. However, the Democrats who controlled the Congress at the time, Tip O'Neill, Speaker of the House, didn't want to have any more military. They just come out. Seriously, dude, just like 6 years ago, we brought the last guys home from Vietnam. And now you want to drop guys in another jungle? Another war against communism? How did the last one in Vietnam work? So that was the complaint of the Dems. Which, me, as a 12-year-old, I kind of understood both sides. I kind of got it. I was like, well, I don't want communism in Central America. And I'm like, but also, Vietnam wasn't good. Are we ready for that again? Because I think that's what that could be. So, Congress wouldn't fund Reagan's war. So Reagan, which, as we all know, he testified he couldn't remember. So he doesn't know. So let's forget about Reagan, right? People within Reagan's organization came up with organization. Most people would call it an administration, but it was very organized. People in the Reagan administration then created a plan in which Oliver North would sell weapons to the Iranians. We weren't allowed to sell weapons to the Iranians because remember the whole hostage thing? They were like on our no-fly list. We didn't deal with the Iranians. But they wanted stuff we had. And Oliver North ended up selling Iranians under the table stuff that we had that they wanted, that they were going to theoretically use against us, right? Because they were our enemy. So why are we selling weapons to our enemy? Fast forward to 2001, and we can have a whole conversation about Osama bin Laden and how we armed the Taliban. But, that's a different conversation. So Oliver North sold a bunch of black market arms to the Iranians under the table without anybody knowing, and he took that money, the money from the arms that he sold to them, and then they secretly funneled it into the Okay, are we back? Someone in the chat room, if you can, I just tried to refresh everything. So if you're in the chat room and you can hear me now and things are back to normal, please let me know as soon as you hear this. I recognize there's a delay. All right, back. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, folks, let's keep going now. We're on Contra. We're moving on from that. 2007 on this day in Greensboro, Kansas. It's completely destroyed by a 1.7 mile wide EF5 tornado. It was the first ever tornado to be rated as such with the new enhanced Fujita scale. Now, tornado season. So obviously there's a lot of tornadoes that occur. We talked about a lot of tornadoes recently. A lot of big outbreaks have occurred on this day, yesterday, tomorrow. It's that time of year. But I saw something last night that I wanted to mention. I don't know. I was flipping around on YouTube and I fell in a hole, and I don't know how I ended up here, but I ended up watching a video about people who die in tornadoes. Oh my God, you guys. Oh, now I got a new one. You know, it's like, I don't want to burn in a fire. I don't want to drown in the ocean. But now I really don't want to go in a tornado because, you know, when you hear like a tornado whipped through town and there's 20 people dead, you know, most of those people who are dead, they're not dead because a wall fell on them. They're not dead because, you know, oh, the tornado destroyed their house and a cinder block hit him in the head. No, most of the people who die in tornadoes die because they get sucked up in the tornado. Oh my God. And I saw a depiction of what happens to the human body when it gets sucked up in it. First of all, it's a quick death. That's good. It's quick death. But there is probably going to be about 5 to 10 seconds where you're fighting it, where you think you can get out of the tornado's pull, and then it just pulls you. Dude, it yanks you limb from limb. It pulls you apart and splits you in half. Not to mention all the other things that are floating around in there. You're just being bombarded in there with rocks and cars and whatever. Holy cow. That has to be the worst way to die. Being sucked up in a tornado. We don't think about that. We don't think of that people are getting sucked up by the tornado. We just think, I wrecked their house and they died. I'm sure their body was found peacefully grasping their Bible at their bedside. Yeah, no, that is not how people who die in tornadoes die. God, the world is awful. Oh my God. Look it up. On this day in 2014, 3 people are killed and 62 are injured in a pair of bombings on buses in Nairobi, Kenya. Yeah. On this day in 2019, the inaugural... Okay, all right. See, now you got me. This one's going to get me going a little bit. On this day in 2019, the inaugural all-female motorsports series, the W Series, takes place at Hockenheimring. That's in Austria, I think. The race was won by Jamie Chadwick, who would go on to become the inaugural season's champion. Okay. There doesn't need to be a women's auto racing league, okay? The athletes in the world of auto racing is about 60% the car. All right, I'm going to give the driver about 40%, but the skills required to be an outstanding race car driver, I do not believe have anything to do with gender. It's like the skill required to be the best military drone operator. Like, I can't imagine that a guy would just simply be better at that than a woman. Auto racing is the same kind of thing. I can't imagine why you would need to have a woman's auto league when if the women were competitive in like vehicles, they could very well compete in the men's league, or what is, until now, the men's league. Danica Patrick didn't race in a females league. She raced with men. That's why. So you don't need it. You don't need the all-female league. This is stupid. Some billionaire probably dumped a whole lot of money into this because some guy fast-talked him into thinking it's the same as the WNBA, which, by the way, why would anyone want to make that investment again? The WNBA is terrible. They lose money and money. I know. Well, I know. No, a lot of people on TV now, they're very well paid and compensated to pretend like they love the WNBA. But WNBA is awful. I'm tired of pretending it's the same thing. No, it is not the same thing at all. It's boring. It is boring because basketball is a sport that was essentially designed to be dominated by men, the male gender, the giant human being. Okay, it's a sport created for the giant human being. Mostly giants are dudes. There are large women, but they are large for women. In most cases, they are not large for humans. They are large for women. Men are gigantic. That is not the case with auto racing. So this W Series, and I mentioned this because I remember when the W Series started, because there was a whole lot of hype, especially in the Formula One world. Everybody was like, you got to support the W Series. And I'm like, why don't they just let these women drive these cars? Hey, Red Bull, why don't you make Max Verstappen take a back seat to some chick if you're so pro-woman? No, you're making them play. You're making them race in a lesser league that is bound to fail because nobody wants to see a bunch of limp-along cars being driven by women that you're developing. Let the women go through, especially if we're talking about Formula One, let the women go through Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2. Let them work their way up. This is not a skill. This is not weightlifting. This is not powerlifting. This is not 40-yard dashes. This is about an ability to pilot a car, and I just don't see how that is something that needs to be differentiated between the genders. I don't get it. Anyway. Would it surprise you to learn that the W Series failed after 3 seasons because of financial difficulty? Yes, of course it did. Because people are like, this is stupid. Look, I'm a feminist. I believe that women can do absolutely anything that they set their minds to, well as a man, and in many cases better than men. I mean, that's just depending on the individual. Is this a superior female? She's better than this man. But again, I draw the line at weightlifting, face punching, and 40-yard dashes. These are all things that the male physique is better equipped at or for, and it's unfair. It's unfair. They were designed for men. These races were designed for men. So these kinds of things. Yeah, it failed. Of course, women's auto racing failed because women should be in real auto racing. That's the problem. Don't pat yourself on the back. Look at us supporting women driving their little cars. Hey, we even got a place for their purses in there. Stop it. Just let them drive your real cars. Let real women participate in Formula One at the highest level. Then you don't have to worry about this stupid thing. Well, but there's never been a woman. Yeah, that's because, when you look at these go-kart races, 30 people in the field, 30 10-year-olds in the field of young go-kart racers, right? Like 28 of them are dudes. So let's just pretend like it's not even. There's not as many young women doing it, so there's not going to be as many women at the professional level. There's just not as many. And that is probably a self-fulfilling dilemma because, there's never been women, so why would a little girl think that she could become a professional auto racer? And that's why they have the W Series. Thank you. That's my co-host, Schizophrenic Me. He's the voice inside my head that occasionally, when I go on these long rants, he finds an inconsistency and points it out. Yeah, you're right. I guess you're right. But I would say to you, Schizophrenic Me, you wouldn't need the W Series if the misogyny didn't exist in the first place. Thank you. And now we move on. But of course it failed. So nobody wants to watch a bunch of women in lesser cars. And that's what they are. They're lesser cars. They're not the same cars. That's why Formula One is such a big deal. Those cars are the cars. Those are the cars you want. And even in the entire field of Formula One cars, there's like 17 of them that probably 15 of them that you don't want. There's only 5 good ones in that group. And those are the ones that win all the time. Give a woman one of those cars. That's what I'm saying. And then let's see what happens. All right, on this, it's just a birthday. So people who were born on this day in 1929. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Audrey Hepburn. Oh! Audrey Hepburn. I love Audrey Hepburn. She's hot. Man. She's a woman. That is classy, sophisticated, elegant, all those things you want to. Woo! Woo! Here, I was going to do like an Audrey Hepburn draft, but truth of the matter is I only know like 2 or 3 Audrey Hepburn movies. I can't do an Audrey Hepburn draft. I'm not all that familiar. I just know she's a smoke show. I just know that she is really, really pretty. She is maybe a little too thin. That would be my thing. I would be like, you know what, Audrey, we're going to date. Can you put on maybe the freshman 15? Freshman 15 would look great on you. You're a little bit thin, but whatever. Beautiful. Just bat those big, giant doe eyes at me, and I'll do whatever you want. We were going to do like, I thought Audrey Hepburn draft, but again, I'm an Audrey Hepburn. So I just clicked on her. First of all, she's an awesome human being. She is an incredible human being. I mean, just all the shit that a lot of times you see someone like her and you're like, look at that. God was inspired the day that he put Audrey Hepburn together, right? God was trying to impress somebody. God had people from the Home Office touring the factory, the human factory, and they were walking behind him, and he was working on something, and he went, I'm going to show them what I'm going to make. And he made Audrey Hepburn. So first of all, she's got that, which is great. And typically, when people are born with that kind of luck, I'm like, okay. You know what I mean? Oh, look at her. Oh, God, I bet she's been gorgeous since the minute she slid out of her mom. I bet she has no idea how much a door weighs, because every single door she's ever walked through has been held open by some guy going, oh, let me get that for you. So typically, I don't like these kinds of people. But then you look at Audrey Hepburn's story and you're like, oh, I'm so glad she's gorgeous, because she had a shit, man. Her whole childhood was running from the Nazis. She lived like an Anne Frank existence. She had to hide. Oh, her father was, or maybe not, a Nazi, and then that was a disgrace, and she had to distance himself. Oh, it was just awful. And then, she became an actress. But then she became like the biggest actress in the world. Like, she was so big. People don't realize how big and famous Audrey Hepburn was. And then she just kind of went, yeah, I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life. She's like 35. She's like, I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life to helping starving kids in Africa. She became like a UNICEF. She gave up Hollywood and became like a starving kids ambassador. And that's all she did for the rest of her life. I think she made one movie. I think Steven Spielberg talked her out of retirement and had her play an angel. So perfect, of course. Or God. I think she played God in the Richard Dreyfuss movie Always. I think she played God. I think that's what Spielberg got her out of retirement because he needed somebody to embody God. And so, of course, he went with Audrey Hepburn. Interestingly enough, I said I was going to do a draft. We're not going to do a draft. I found this list. This is the AFI. When I say that she is, and I wonder if by today's standards, if she's kind of a forgotten megastar of Hollywood. I don't know. I think her character from Breakfast at Tiffany's of Holly Golightly, I think that's going to be sort of a young woman staple to emulate. I think that there's something timeless about that character. A prostitute. Yeah, yes, I know. Yeah, she was a prostitute. Let's not kid ourselves. Holly Golightly in Breakfast at Tiffany's was a prostitute. Let's not. But she was a hooker with a heart of gold. She was that whole thing. But would you be interested to know AFI? They put out this from 2000, so a lot of the actresses the last 20 years aren't mentioned here. But AFI put together their list of the 50 biggest Hollywood legends of all time, okay? 50 biggest Hollywood legends of all time, male and female. Number one in the female category, the number one greatest Hollywood actress of all time, according to AFI, which is the American Film Institute, which, if you believe in institutions, you got to say they're the ones who make these lists. Number one, Katharine Hepburn. Katharine Hepburn, number one all time. How about the male category? Humphrey Bogart, which, okay. They say okay, I guess. Humphrey Bogart, the greatest male star of all time. Number two in the female category. The number two biggest female actress of all time, ladies and gentlemen, Bette Davis. Bette Davis gets number two. Number two in the men's division, that goes to my favorite, Cary Grant. Cary Grant, he was so smooth. He was so funny. He could do everything. He's like Clooney. Clooney is so desperate to be Cary Grant. And he's trying, but we'll see. We'll see. But he ain't Cary Grant. All right, here we go. Let's move on to number 3. This is the AFI list of the greatest and biggest stars in Hollywood history. Number 3 in the female category, the birthday girl, Audrey Hepburn. See, this is what I'm saying. Number 3 all time, Audrey Hepburn. And I wonder if people today really recognize how big of a star she was. Number 3 in the men's division goes to James Stewart. 4 in the women's is Ingrid Bergman. 5 is Greta Garbo. 6 is Marilyn Monroe. 7 is Elizabeth Taylor. 8 is Judy Garland. 9 is Marlene Dietrich. And 10 is Joan Crawford. In the men's division, we got number 3 is Jimmy Stewart. Did I say that? Yeah. 3 is Jimmy Stewart, opposite Audrey Hepburn. Then you got Marlon Brando. Then you got Fred Astaire. Number 6 is Henry Fonda. Number 7 is Clark Gable. Number 8 is James Cagney. Number 9 is Spencer Tracy. Number 10 is Charlie Chaplin. Happy birthday to you, Audrey Hepburn. You are number 3 all time, according to AFI. Good for you. Born on this day in 1937, Dick Dale. Dick Dale's the guitar guy. Surf rock. You know, yesterday we talked about Link Ray, the guitarist who's going into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And I said that Link Ray, you know, he's that... Dick Dale's kind of the same thing. Really good guitar players. Just really good guitar players making really crazy sounds. Happy birthday, Dick Dale. You're dead. He died in 2019. Born on this day in 1941, George Will, American journalist and author. God, I hate George Will. He is such a D-bag. Oh, my God. Oh, he was so boring. And you know what I love? I love how he's been completely destroyed. George Will has always been a water carrier for the conservative 1%. You know, if you're a rich guy, you know, you pay up. George will carry your water on whatever issue you want. He's always been a piece of shit. He has always been against the regular man. But he tries to he tried for a number of years to get back in the good graces of mainstream America after being a complete asshole for so many years by being like a baseball guy. I'm George Will and I love baseball. We can talk about baseball. We don't. Even your baseball takes are boring. You stupid old man. But here's what I love about George Will. George Will was one of these, like, you know, old school water carriers for the 1% class who didn't like when Trump came in. And so George Will stood on principle. Oh, and they tore him apart. Hear the dog? Dog wants to go out. They tore him apart. They destroyed him. And it was like, yeah, tear him limb from limb, you animals. I hate George Will. So arrogant, so condescending. And just his history of just being just this elitist snob is... Oh my God, I hate these people. I gotta let the dog out. Dog's being kind of a bitch. The dog wants to go out. She knows she can't go out during the show. She knows that this is 2 hours where she has to just hold it, which is why some little girls get walks before we go on. Yeah, and you didn't do nothing on your walk today, did you? No, you didn't. And now what? Now you want to go out. Oh, here she is. Now you want to go out. Come on up. Say hi to the peoples. Come here. Come on up. Yeah, come here. Come on. Say hi to the peoples. You don't want to say hi to the people. All right, I got to let her out. I'll get a let her out, and then we'll get restarted. I apologize. That's how we do here on the High Noon Report. We're at the mercy of a crazy Catahoula. All right. All right. If she doesn't make her rounds of the property, she gets very anxious. Like I don't know what she's thinking. Like she thinks like there's a bunch of squirrels having a dance party on the pool deck. She's got to get down there and break that shit up. She's like, nope, no fun in the backyard. None of you squirrel fun. None of you birds better land in my backyard. She's obsessed. She's obsessed with anything that lives in that backyard. Anything that lives in that backyard must be killed. Let's see here. Born on this day in 1953, another birthday. Here's someone we could talk a little bit about. This is a funny lady. Well, I don't know if she's funny. It's a funny story. It's an interesting story. Ladies and gentlemen, happy birthday to Pia Zadora. Pia Zadora. Do you come from the 80s like me? If you do, you know Pia Zadora. If you were going through puberty, at the time I was, you know Pia Zadora. Pia Zadora was weird, man. Okay, Pia Zadora was an actress in the 1980s. She was very famous for like a year or two. Like everybody was talking about her. She was on all talk shows. She seemed to be everywhere all at once. She made a couple of movies. She made a movie called Butterfly. She made a movie called The Lonely Lady. She made a bunch of like movies that I think could best be described in their later versions as like Skinamax films, you know, late night cable. But they were actual movies that were released in theaters like back in the early 80s. Pia Zadora was a terrible actress. She was nominated 4 times. She made 4 movies. She was nominated 4 times for the Golden Raspberry Award, which is the award given each year to the worst actress. She won the Golden Raspberry I'm sorry, she didn't. She lost out. She finished second in the Golden Raspberry Worst Actress of the 80s to Madonna. Madonna got number 1. I think that's a little bit. Anyway, Pia Zadora was a sex bomb. She was like this little 20-something-year-old little sex bomb. But for me, who was just at this stage in my life recognizing sex bombs, I was like, she ain't Bo Derek, okay? Can we just be straight about that? She's like, Bo Derek. Like, even then I was like, Pia Zadora seems gettable. Bo Derek did not seem gettable. I mean, look, I'm 13 years old. Pia Zadora was not gettable to me. But you know what I mean? She seemed like more of like, okay, you know, if I made a little money, I could probably get a girl that looks like Pia Zadora. But I didn't look at Bo Derek and think that. I looked at Bo Derek and thought, a whole lot of good's gonna have to happen to me if I'm ever gonna get to date Bo Derek. But Pia Zadora seemed approachable. She seemed more slutty. Bo Derek seemed exotic and mysterious and truly one of a kind. Like that, they broke. Pia Zadora seemed like a girl you hook up with after you get drunk at a bar when you're on a convention. You know, it's like, I hooked up with her. She turned out to be a prostitute. You know, it's like that. That's what Pia Zadora... That ain't what Bo Derek was. So even as a kid, I kind of had this kind of weird Pia Zadora thing. But Pia Zadora, where'd she come from? Pia Zadora grew up in New Jersey, and she was basically just a little Italian girl, a little Polish Italian girl from New Jersey whose mom was a costume designer on Broadway. And her mom always wanted her daughter to be a big Broadway star. So from the time Pia Zadora was a little girl, she was going on Broadway auditions. She was in a couple of movies when she was little. Santa Claus versus the Martians is probably the most famous Pia Zadora movie. She was like 9 years old. And then she goes away, and she goes to high school, and she grows up, and she ends up working on Broadway at 18 years old as like a chorus girl. And it's at this point that she meets 50-year-old Arthur Riskin, like some producer. I'll tell you, baby, I'll make you a star. You got what it takes. And she married him. He was like 50. She was 18. She married this billionaire. And he's like, look, baby, I'm friends with Sinatra. You're not going to have to struggle like these other people. So what he basically did was he spent all of this money making his new 18-year-old bride a star. And he got her Broadway, he produced a Broadway play, and he put her in it. Then he produced the Lonely Lady, produced Butterfly. He took all of the Golden Globe voters on like a weekend luxury vacation. And then, look at that, she won the Golden Globe for as Best New Starlet. It was all huge work. And yeah, he just, Sinatra would go out on, tour and stuff. And he'd be like, let me bring in and introduce to you a young lady. And he'd bring out, Pia Zadora. And he'd be like, why is Frank hanging out with her? It's because Frank's friends with her husband. But yeah, she's, that's totally it. She saw a way to get a little bit of attention. I don't fault her. This is not like, she just married a guy for his money. Yeah, as opposed to what? As opposed to what motivation is acceptable for you, for someone to marry somebody. But I married him because I loved his eyes. Okay, that seems fucking shallow. I married him. See, any way that you can open the door, I don't care what makes you attracted to an individual. If there's an attraction there, there's something to build on. And once the attraction, see, a regular guy who changes oil for a living walks up to Pia Zadora and tries to talk to her, and she looks over this guy, and she's like, no, I don't think so. A guy who's like, a 50-year-old producer, baby, I'm going to make you a star. He walks up to Pia Zadora, and suddenly she's talking to him. Why? Because he's got something else that she's attracted to, his power and influence. Then it's what you do in that moment. Once you got that door open, it doesn't matter what the attraction is. Oh, I liked her because she was pretty. Oh, I liked her because she was smart. So what? So you liked him because he had money. He had money, and that gave you a sense of security. And then after a little bit of time, you're like, I kind of like this guy. You would have never given him a shot. You would have never even realized that, I kind of like this guy if he didn't have money first. Just like you would have never fallen in love with Mr. Beautiful Blue Eyes if he hadn't approached you with those beautiful blue eyes. That was the reason that you allowed it. So whatever it is, I don't fault Pia Zadora. She used what she had. She had a bunch of kids with this guy. This guy died like 20 years later, and then she remarried. That's the play. Never had to work a day in her life. Pia Zadora, happy birthday. I got no hatred for you. I think you did it right. But let's get the facts out there on how you did it. I'm not judging. But let's just lay it all out. This is how you did it. A lot of people might find fault in that. Not me. Not me. I say, look at what you did. Look at your plan. Born on this day in 1959, Randy Travis. Randy Travis. I saw the saddest Randy Travis interview recently. Oh, that guy. He's in bad shape. He's got some stuff. I don't know what's wrong with him, but there's something wrong with him. And Randy Travis, he's been dealing with some medical issues for a very long time. And, he had a whole bunch of like dust-ups, like drunken dust-ups and stuff like that. I think a lot of this is due to the fact that this guy has been dealing with something for a long time. So, best thoughts to Randy Travis on this his birthday. Because, actually, what's he got? Let's see what's he got. He's got something. He's got something, and it's sad. Because I saw the interviews recently on like one of those Sunday morning TV shows recently where he and his wife were being interviewed. Illness. Okay, let's see here. What is this? On July 7th, 2013, Travis was admitted to a Dallas area hospital for viral cardiomyopathy after a viral upper respiratory infection. His condition was classified as critical. 3 days later, Travis suffered a massive stroke, then underwent surgery to relieve pressure on his brain. Within the next 5 days, Travis was awake and alert after undergoing brain surgery, and his heart was pumping without the assistance of machines. An assumption that he would make a full recovery. And there was an assumption he would make a full recovery. He was released from Baylor Heart Hospital in Plano, Texas on July 31st. My son was born there. On July 31st and entered a physical therapy facility following a stroke. And despite therapy, Travis suffered from aphasia. Oh, that's the Bruce Willis thing. That's what Bruce Willis has. Travis suffers from aphasia and used a cane for more than a year. By November of 2014, he was recovering, could walk short distances without assistance, and was relearning to write and play guitar. In 2016, it was reported he recovered his voice after about 3 years of rehab and could perform again. He attended his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in October of 2016 and performed a rendition of Amazing Grace. Despite the 2016 reports, it was clear at the Hall of Fame induction ceremony that Travis was far from recovered. In 2017, Travis acknowledged that he had sustained permanent damage, including a disabled right hand, limited speech, and severely impacted singing ability. While he continues to make public appearances, Travis no longer sings. He appeared on stage with Michael Ray during a cover performance of Forever and Ever Amen in June of 2017, to which Travis contributed the final Amen. He did the same thing during his 60th birthday party thrown by the Grand Ole Opry in May of 2019. In September of 2019, he announced his return to touring. Okay. Announced a 3-day. It was cut back. Okay. Due to unexpected. Then the tour was canceled. Due to unexpected production and technical issues, they say. Anyway, he's going through some things, man. I saw him recently on some interview, and he didn't look good. So, best thoughts, Randy Travis. Born on this day in 1967, SNL alum, Spare SNL, Anna Gasteyer. Whatever. Anna Gasteyer's kind of losing a lot of roles these days, I think, to Catherine Hahn. Catherine Hahn is great, and everybody loves Catherine Hahn, but she seems to play the same kind of role that Anna Gasteyer used to get. Anna Gasteyer doesn't get them anymore because Catherine Hahn. Born on this day in 1970, another one of my all-time favorites. How about Will Arnett, ladies and gentlemen? Gob Bluth from Arrested Development. Devin from 30 Rock. Oh my God, is he funny? Oh, is he good? Batman, he's the best Batman as far as personality goes. Born on this day in 1979, how about a big hearty happy birthday to Lance Bass? Lance Bass! What was he in? Was it Backstreet Boys? Is he a Backstreet Boy or is he a 98 degreeer? I don't know. Is he an NSYNCer? He might be one of them. There were three bands. Justin Timberlake was in NSYNC. That's what I know. That's the only thing I know. Lance Bass was in one of those groups. NSYNC, 98 Degrees, Backstreet Boys. Not sure. Born on this day in 1989, finally today, Northern Irish golfer, Rory McIlroy. Rory McIlroy, born on this day. All right, let's go through some of the deaths, some of the people who have passed away on this day. We've gone through the events of this day. We've gone through the birthdays. Now let's talk about the deaths. On this day in 1975, the world lost Mo Howard. Oh, my God. Mo Howard passed away on this day. He was the mean one. He was the mean stooge. I didn't like I didn't dislike the Three Stooges, but the Three Stooges used to be packaged with a half hour of Three Stooges and a half hour of Little Rascals. Some days, it would be a full hour of Three Stooges and a full hour of Little Rascals. On the days that it was a full hour of Three Stooges, I didn't like that. I preferred the Little Rascals. Why? Gadgets. The Little Rascals had gadgets. The Three Stooges were just three idiots who just, beat up on each other. And that's funny, the first couple of times. But then it's like, okay, they're doing this again? Oh, whoop, 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 whoop. I get it. But the Little Rascals or the R Gang, I don't know, because it depends on the way it was branded in your television market. We had Little Rascals and R Gang, but they were the same thing. Little Rascals, I don't know, they had contraptions. They had gadgets, They would put on shows and they would make things, and it was very inspiring. There was nothing inspiring about the Three Stooges other than just watching three dudes pick on each other, which again was funny for a while. But no, man, you want to capture my attention as a 10-year-old? You show me the Little Rascals building some contraption buggy with a punching fist that comes out the side. They had all kinds of cool things, the Little Rascals. I like that. And, of course, I like the dog. Mo Howard, dead on this day in 1975. Dead on this day in 2001. Here's a name from the past. I don't know why this didn't make the events of this day. I don't know why this wasn't mentioned in Erstwhile on May the 4th. Bonnie Lee Bakley. Bonnie Lee Bakley died on this day. You know that name? You remember the name Bonnie Lee Bakley? Remember that name? Does that name? Bonnie Lee Bakley. Does it even sound familiar to you? It should. She was the wife of Robert Blake. Remember Robert Blake killed his wife? He was like the worst wife killing ever. The Robert Blake wife killing thing, that's sort of okay, so when I think about the Robert Blake wife killing incident, right? I think about that. And I try to think about the details of what went on in the Robert Blake murder of Bonnie Lee Bakley. I don't even know. Whatever. It's Bonnie. What's her name? Bonnie Lee Bakley. Okay. I get the details confused with Phil Spector. Because, it seems to me like the Phil Spector thing with Lana Clarkson, that was happening at maybe around the same time. It seemed to be the same. So when I think about the details of Robert Blake, I said, okay, no, wait, that wasn't the House of Blues. That was Phil Spector. This was at a restaurant. Remember? Okay. Oh, gotta let the dog in. I knew this was going to happen. I apologize. Oh, but you're going to want to hear this. I got some hot takes on the whole Robert Blake thing. Speaking of the Little Rascals, we were just talking about the Little Rascals in Three Stooges. Robert Blake was in the Little Rascals. That's why I mentioned that. I just assumed everybody knew it. Come on, get in. I'm not going to wait for you. All right. No squirrels? Very good. Good job. Good girl. No squirrels. Hey, he played Mickey on the Little Rascals. So there you go. Everything comes full circle. now she's just going to be hanging out here panting. Ugh, this dog pants. It's so irritating. Okay, so Bonnie Lee Bakley Robert Blake was an actor. He's famous, I guess. He was Beretta in the 70s. He was in a whole bunch of movies. Not a whole bunch of movies, but he made a couple of movies. He was well known. He was a child actor, known in Hollywood throughout the time of Little Rascals, all the way up until Beretta. And then, Beretta, he became a big star. Hey, knock it off and lay down. He's trying to dig a pothole in the carpet. Not allowed. So by the time that this whole story came about, he was, people was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Beretta. Is he still alive? That's kind of how people were when it came to Robert Blake, around the time that he murdered his wife. He was old. He had a little house. He still had a little cachet. And he met this woman at like a convention or something, this Bonnie Lee Bakley. She was, and this all came out in the trial because, he was accused of murder and he was defending himself, but she was a piece of work, man. She was a celebrity stalker. She was one of these people that would go around and just needed to be somehow in the same orbit of somebody, of even the most dubious of fame levels. I mean, Robert Blake, right? This is what she's like, Robert Blake. So she hooks up with Robert Blake. Robert Blake's like an old man at this point. He's alienated. Robert Blake's a tough dude. He was a tough guy to get along with. He doesn't have a lot of friends. We saw that in the trial. So Robert Blake's, he's looking, he's 70 years old. Nobody gives a shit about him. He's got nobody taking care of him. And all of a sudden, this like crazy lady, this crazy celebrity, I love you, Beretta. This lady comes into his life and he's like, all right, fine. You're going to do my laundry. You're going to do the dishes. You're going to make sure this place doesn't look like a goddamn pigsty, because it did, because Robert Blake doesn't clean up. So he entered into this kind of arrangement with her. And her deal was that he needed to marry her. And Robert Blake's like, yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit. So that was very Robert Blake. So he marries her. So it's not exactly like this loving relationship to begin with. And, they went to a place for dinner every Friday night, and it was kind of their regular thing. And she stayed in the car. Apparently, now people are saying that there was an argument, but at the time we didn't hear this. She stayed in the car. He walked into the restaurant. He was stewing. He was angry that she wouldn't come into the restaurant. He apparently then walked back to the car, put a bullet in her head, and then walked back into the restaurant and ate his meal. At least that's what he was convicted of. So, and it was on this day that happened. 2001, Bonnie Lee Bakley, the wife of Robert Blake, was murdered by Beretta right there in front of some Italian restaurant in like I don't know, Encino, I don't know, somewhere, some weird suburb that they lived in, like not Beverly Hills. It wasn't like Malibu or Beverly. It was like just some weird suburb. Like, he lives next to a firefighter, like he lives in a normal neighborhood. Hey, Beretta lives on the corner. Dead on this day in 2009, Dom DeLuise. Dom DeLuise died on this day in 2009. I don't know what the hell Dom DeLuise was. I don't know what he was. Burt Reynolds' friend? I mean, what would you say Dom DeLuise was? Was he an actor? I guess he was an actor. I guess he was comic relief. He was a side guy. I guess sometimes you'll watch old black and white things. You'll be like, is that Dom DeLuise? And it's Dom DeLuise, but he became famous because Burt Reynolds liked him. That's it. Burt Reynolds was the biggest movie star in Hollywood, and Dom DeLuise made Burt laugh. So all of a sudden, Dom DeLuise is super famous. Dead on this day in 2012, Adam Yauch, MCA of the Beastie Boys. That's right. Take a moment. MCA! Love the Beasties. Dare say not a cooler band. Just as far as like dudes, man. They just seem like cool dudes. MCA Nathaniel Hornblower he was also known as. He directed all the coolest Beastie Boys videos. He was a member of the Beastie Boys, played bass when they picked up instruments, founding member of the Beastie Boys. Whenever they would do those cool-ass Beastie Boys videos, it was always directed by Nathaniel Hornblower. Spike Jonze also had some role in it, but he was more producing the music. But the videos were the creation of Nathaniel Hornblower. Like Sabotage, the fun ones, the cool videos. Nathaniel Hornblower. That was MCA. That was Adam Yauch. That was just his little, when I direct, I'm Nathaniel Hornblower. Adam Yauch died on this day in 2012. Dead on this day in 2020, Don Shula. Don Shula, American football player, American coach, Don Shula. There you go. All right. I guess that's it. That's about it, right? So we've now done the antecedently on this day. We've done previously on May the 4th. We've got y'all caught up. Those were the births. Those were the deaths. We talked about the events. I am sweating. Hi, Barney. Barney's in there. Barney says Bert and Dom were the original Jay and Silent Bob. Okay. All right. I'll give you credit on that one. I like that. Sure. Frank Smith says Dom was a comedian. Sure about that? I know Bert thought he was. Dom used to crack Bert up. You know how I know that? Because at the end of like Cannonball Run and stuff, they would always show the outtakes. And oh my God. Dom would say like something stupid. And Bert would be like, right? That's all it took. That's all it took to buy Dom DeLuise's Hollywood Hills mansion. Just make Burt Reynolds, just make him double over. All right, let's get into what's trending today. Now that we know what's happened before, let's dive into what's going on today. Happy Star Wars Day. We already talked about that, Star Wars Day, May the 4th. Oh, that's irritating. Yeah, it's irritating on the level from it. It's like eye roll. It's like, oh wow, really? You just said May the 4th be with me. You're so clever. That's great. Yeah. That's what I do inside. I'm not a dick. Like if somebody says that to me on the street, I'll be like, haha, good one, and just move on. But inside, I'm like, you're a fucking moron. And that's so don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. But I'll be nice about it because I'm not a dick. I'll be nice in public. I'll be nice. You'll have no idea that I'm judging you. I put that in a category with people like my son. Oh, God, this drives me nuts. And he knows it drives me nuts. And he does it on purpose now. But the people who go around going, Die Hard's a Christmas movie. Prove me wrong. How about if I just punch you in the face? How about if I just think so little of you and your ability to understand what a genre of film is that I just never speak to you again? How about that? How about that? I'm not going to prove you wrong because really, what would be the point of that? That's absurd to prove you wrong. Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. It is a film that happens to take place on Christmas Eve, but it is not about Christmas. All right, we can move on. And may the 4th be with you. There you go. See, look what I did there. Atlanta. Yesterday during the show, we were following, at least we were trying to follow as best we could, the situation out of Atlanta. There was a shooting in Atlanta at a medical clinic yesterday. We now know all there is to know about this Yahoo. Apparently, he's a crazy person. Military guy, served in the Coast Guard. Apparently, I don't know what happened to him, Coast Guard. What happened in the Coast Guard? I don't know. I guess you can have mental issues and then go into the Coast Guard and have your mental issues not be related to your service, but whatever. He's with the VA, right? So the VA's got to take care of him because he's in the Coast Guard. That's the deal. We all agree with that. Just wish the VA could be better. Tell you, all those years that I spent working with the Veterans Charity, I learned a lot about the VA. The VA is not a good thing, man. A lot of people going without because of the way the VA is. But you know what? That's a boring subject. Nobody wants to talk about. People want to talk about that as long as they can use their love and support of the veterans to somehow better their position. That's when they need people to go, that's a good guy. Then they support the VA and they throw their arms around the veterans and the problems that they're having. But as soon as an election cycle goes away, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody changes anything at the VA. It's terrible. Anyway, so this dude goes to the VA because he's on medication for his he's crazy. He's on medications. And he doesn't like the medications that they're on, so he wants them to change their medications. And his mom, 24-year-olds, his mom goes with him because he's and she was kind of like, okay, somebody's got to like keep him calm. So he goes to the medical clinic there in Atlanta yesterday, and he tries to get his prescriptions changed. He doesn't like what they're giving him, and he gets the VA runaround. It's all bullshit. There's nothing but frustration in that place. So he loses his shit and he kills people. Shoots a bunch of people. Shoots 4 or 5 people. Shoots 5 people. Mom, right in front of mom. Didn't shoot mom. Mom's right there. Let's see here. Then he went on a manhunt that lasted all day long. They were looking for him all over. They finally caught him over by the Braves Stadium where the Atlanta Braves play. Caught him in a courtyard there of a condo development. But, this was going on for hours and hours and hours and hours. He ran from the original shooting location, which was on Peachtree in Midtown Atlanta. He ran from there and he carjacked a car and got in the car. I don't know what happened to that victim. Well, maybe the story will tell us. And then he drove all the way to a different part of Atlanta, over by where the Braves play. And he started running around in that area. And they looked for him there for like 4 hours, and that's the area they finally caught him in. The man accused of opening fire inside an Atlanta medical facility was charged with murder and 4 counts of aggravated assault. Dion Dwayne Patterson, 24, was expected to make his first court appearance later Thursday, one day after he allegedly shot 5 women. Just shot a bunch of women. And, these women were in the waiting room. He just shot other people who were waiting. Dion, and he shot a CDC nurse. That's the woman who died. God love her. Let's see here. One day after he allegedly shot 5 women and then evaded police during an 8-hour-long manhunt. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention employee Amy St. Pierre, 39, was killed with a semi-automatic handgun, according to an affidavit written by Atlanta police officer Scott Deemster. In a statement posted to Twitter Thursday, the federal agency said, CDC is deeply saddened by the unexpected loss of a colleague killed yesterday in the Midtown Atlanta shooting. Our hearts are with her and her family. We know what they say. The 4 women wounded were between the ages of 25 and 71 and identified in court papers as Lisa Glynn, Georgette Whitlow, Jasmine Daniel, and Alicia Hollinger. Glynn and Daniels were shot in the abdomen, Whitlow in the arm, and Hollinger in the face. The shooting unfolded Peachtree Street between 11:59 and 12:08. 3 of the wounded remain in intensive care. Let's see here. Okay, see, I hate this. I hate these stories because then they always go into the gunfire in Atlanta is only the latest in a string of mass shootings. Okay, we don't need all that. We know that. Just tell us the details. That is not your place, journalist, to bring us up to speed and gin us up about the thing that's got you all ginned up. Just give us the facts on this story. I'm trying to find if there's any more details on this dude. This dude, he just lost his shit. Crazy person just killed 39-year-old woman. 39-year-old woman, CDC nurse, just went to her job. And she never came home. Nice. This fucking guy. Seriously. And then what? I don't know what to think of this guy. Because he's obviously crazy, which means you can't do anything about it. You can't have a conversation. You can't try to figure out why a crazy person does what a crazy person does. Because a crazy person is going to do what crazy does, which is be crazy. So you can't get any answers there other than you got broke brain and you can't be in civilized society anymore. And by the way, go apologize to this person. I mean, you can't just kill people. I don't know what to do. Crazy person. I mean, I get it. I used to have to advocate on behalf of people with the VA. And that, let me tell you what that entails. That entails calling and waiting on hold for like 5 hours. It's thankless. It's terrible. It's an absolutely infuriating system that our soldiers have to go through when they come back here and they need medical assistance. Well, what are they getting medical? Because that's what they signed up for. Because that's part of the deal. Yeah, I've actually read that. I've had that. Really? You don't think that soldiers should have their medical taken care of after they get it? Really? No? Okay. All right. Well, you just want a prison army, don't you? You just want to make an army out of people who are otherwise stripped of all of their rights, privileges, all of those things. We don't take care of our soldiers. And you can drive around. I don't give a shit who you are. You can drive around with your cool ass car and you can have, I support the troops. No, you really don't. Having that fucking bumper sticker is nothing but personal glory for you, so that you can sit in traffic and have everybody else going, at least they know I'm an American and I support. No, you don't. The average American person does not support the troops. We stopped supporting the troops around 2010. It was just the natural effects of burnout. We fought a war for 20 years. We were inundated constantly with people coming home and trying to reassimilate. And now we've got people with all these injuries and all of these ongoing illnesses now because of the crazy shit that they were exposed to over there. We don't take care of them. We're done with them. We're done. Oh, you made it back? Oh, good. You survived. Okay, see you later. How about this one? Here's one. This is Proud Boys. Proud Boys are trending today. The Proud Boys were convicted of seditious conspiracy in a court this morning. That leader, that rat, that Torres rat. Let's see how much time he gets. That's going to be interesting because he was cooperating. That rat. First of all, I thought I always say this about this dude. I don't get it. I thought the Proud Boys were a racist organization. I thought they were like all about the white man. Maybe I'm wrong. Their leader's name is Enrique Torres. That's not a white guy's name. That is not by my grandpa's version of what a white guy is. Enrique Torres is not a white guy. And yet he's in charge of the Proud Boys, which I always thought was interesting. Same with that other white supremacist, Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is not a white guy. Nick Fuentes' dad is Mexican. You're a white supremacist? I don't get it. There's no rules. There are absolutely no rules. 4 members of the far-right Proud Boys have been found guilty of seditious conspiracy by a jury in Washington, D.C. for their roles to forcibly present the peaceful transfer of power from then-President Donald Trump to Joe Biden after the 2020 election. Defendants Enrique Tarrio, that's it, Tarrio, Torres. Why did I say Torres? Enrique Tarrio, the Proud Boys chairman, Ethan Nordine, now that sounds like a white guy name. Ethan Nordine. Joseph Biggs, that's another white guy name. Zachary Real, yeah, that's a white guy name. And Dominic Pizzola. My grandpa would not consider Dominic Pizzola a white guy. My grandpa didn't consider Italians white guys. And just, yeah, I'm telling you. I wish I could interview my grandpa in 2023. He would drop some jaws with his hot takes. Yeah, but Italians were not white guys. Italians weren't white guys. Greeks weren't white guys. Basically, nobody with dark hair. Basically, if you had dark hair, you're not a white guy. And my grandpa had dark hair, which was weird. The guilty verdict marks the 3rd time that prosecutors have secured convictions for seditious conspiracy in the Justice Department's historic prosecution of those who breached the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. All right, that's why the Proud Boys are trending. Proud Boys. Proud Boys. Proud Boys. Proud Boys. Do you think that was Wild Boys, right? That was Duran Duran Wild Boys. Proud Boys is such a homo-friendly name. It's just Proud Boys sounds it's a bit, right? Like they didn't go, you know what? We're really proud. Let's call ourselves Proud Boys. They weren't serious, right? It was kind of like tongue-in-cheek, like we're Proud Boys, right? Right? Like there's a joke that I'm missing because they're not really funny, but they think they're being funny, so I got to give credit for that. Or do they really think that name sounds cool? Like that name sounds like, that's a badass name. Nobody said that. So I'm thinking we call ourselves the Proud Boys. Like nobody went, yeah, that sounds, I don't know. It's got to be a bit. I think it's got to be a bit. Because then you got that other group, like the Boogaloo Boys. That's obviously a bit. Like that's a silly name. You're much scarier than your name. Maybe that's it. I don't know. How about Russia? Russia is trending again today. Yesterday, we talked about how Russia was the victim of a Ukrainian drone bombing. Well, the Ukrainians, they're like, we didn't do it. Look, I'll tell you who did it. The Russians did it. This was an internal attack from people on the street. That's who did it. But Russia doesn't want to admit that on the world stage because that would then, they were like, yeah, we got some problems here. My position of power here at the Kremlin is tenuous at best because now we got people flying drones dropping bombs in the courtyard of the Kremlin, and these are Russian citizens. They can't say that to the world. So it's like, Ukraine has stepped it up. Well, there's more. There's more today. They're not saying Ukraine anymore. They're saying us. That's right, we did it. The United States of America. They're blaming us now. They're saying that we did it. They're saying that we did it, that we encouraged the Ukraine to do it, and that the Ukraine did it, but we also did it. We did it, they did it, everybody did it, except for the people on the streets of Moscow who probably really did it. I'm trying to think. They're saber rattling with nukes again. We might have to use nukes. They're doing that whole thing. But here's what, again, I'm gonna. We know where Putin is at all times. Okay, this was supposedly an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. He wasn't at the Kremlin when this attack took place. He was at his, like, I don't know, some other place. What I don't remember where, but he was at some other place, and it wasn't a secret that he was at another place. Like, they knew, like, people in Russia knew. So for them to go, it's the Americans who tried to do it. That's pretending that the Americans don't have incredible surveillance on Putin at all times. They know where he is. They're not gonna look, they might try and assassinate him and miss him, but he's gonna be in the relative area. It's not gonna be a complete screw up where we thought he was there. It's not gonna be like that. That's not how our intelligence works. We knew where he was. We knew he wasn't there. You know who didn't know he wasn't there? The people on the streets of Russia who were just trying to create some kind of mayhem and all that. But anyway, they're blaming us. They're saying they're going to use nukes now. All right. Which is, by the way, that's not necessarily a good thing. I mean, I think it's a good thing that the people in Russia might be rising up to try and take their great country back. It's a cool-ass country. The history of Russia before all the nonsense with the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks and all that stuff, before, like, 1905, Russia was cool. Like, there was some cool stuff going on there. And then it just, it took like 115 years off, and now it's got to come back. Russia can come back. And the only way that's going to happen is if the people rise up. But if the people do rise up, now you got Putin fighting a war on two fronts. He knows that he's not going to live through this. Putin's not going to go to exile like Napoleon. Putin's going to be dragged through the streets and beaten with shovels. He knows this. This is how he's going out. So I don't know. So, I mean, could he just launch them off? If he knows the people are coming for him with pitchforks, is that going to be, what's he going to do? He's just going to launch everything? I don't know. He's a crazy person. He's a dangerous man, and he hates America. But you keep wearing those rather be Putin than Biden shirts because you're a real American. Fucking morons. Let's see here. Americans, the Pentagon, and John Kirby, look at this. You never hear this. This is, they're calling, you know what they're saying? They're saying false flag. False flag. That ain't even a thing. There wasn't no drone attack. There's videos of the drone attack, so we know that there was a drone attack. But, yeah, the Pentagon is saying he's blaming us. We are blaming him. It's like, that whole thing. So we're technically saying, we don't really think that this is a real thing that happened. We think they did it to themselves, which is a variation of what I think, which is I just think that there were some street hooligans who did it. I think there's people who are against Putin at the grassroots level on the streets. And I think this is maybe the first attack. Maybe we'll see more. Who knows? The people will rise up. But yeah, our official position on this is that there's no fun. It wasn't real. They did it to themselves. They're trying to make a big show to the world. They're trying to justify them ramping up. And, banks are trending. Why? Because we got some problems in this country with the banks. Oh, boy, that's right. But it's okay. It's just the rich people banks. It's not like banks where you and I have checking accounts and stuff like that. It's more rich people banks. Amid turbulence in the U.S. banking system, nearly half of all Americans are now anxious about the safety of the money they have in accounts at banks. 48% of U.S. adults say that they are concerned about their money, including 19% who are very and 29% who are moderately worried. At the same time, 30% are not too worried, and 20% are not worried at all. Yeah, of course, there's always going to be a 20% that ain't going to worry about anything. It's your weed dealer. He's, no worries, man. It's all cool. It's not a big problem. But yeah, banks are teetering. And comes news of the latest bank. Who wants to be insolvent? Come on down, PacWest Bank. Womp bump, 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 bump. PacWest Bank is a regional lender with over $6 billion in market capitalization. Yeah, PacWest Bank, another one of these rich people banks. Teetering. Lost 60% of its worth yesterday. Just whoop, 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 whoop. PacWest Bank Corp said core deposits have increased since March and confirmed that it's in talks with several potential investors seeking to calm the markets after a 60% stock rout that made it the new focal point of concern over the health of the United States banking system. PacWest is a regional lender. Well, if you're Northwest Sacramento's number one Toyota dealer, and you've got 5 shops in the Sac-Met area. I don't even know what that's called, the Sacramento metro area. And you want to open a new dealership, you can go to PacWest. But, you're probably not cashing your checks from Uncle Julio's at PacWest. It's another one of these rich people banks where rich people go, give me money for this. And then they give you a bunch of money. And then that person's idea was stupid and they blew it. And then the bank loses all their money. This is what happens. These are idiots giving their friend idiots money to do idiot things. Why? Because they know that the FDIC will always come on in and bail them out. Because the government won't allow the banks to fail. You can allow these banks to fail. You can allow all of these banks to fail. Seriously, nobody gives a shit about these banks. These banks are all the people with accounts in these banks have like $1 million in their account. These banks can fail. Let them fail. They'll be fine. They've proven that they're go-getters. Oh, what's that? Half of them are silver spoons who just inherited their money. Only less than 20% are actually self-made millionaires. Well, those guys will be fine. The rest of them, fuck them. Seriously, these banks that are going under are rich people banks. And they're going under because they made really stupid investments because ultimately they know that a really bad quarter or a really bad investment, they're still going to get their bonuses because they'll find a way. They'll find a way to get their bonus. Always happens. This is the industry where you completely screw up and you get fired. And then you get like a severance package that's worth like $100 million. You bad boy, go away. Have $100 million. It's all a game. It is all a game. They take care of each other and they squeeze us out of any fair play, any reasonable competition that we can have against a certain class in this country. We are squeezed out. And these are all examples of it. These fucking banks, man, they're all going to go under and they're all going to be fine. They're all going to get propped up by the government, by our tax dollars. This coming out of New York City, Jordan Healy. You following this story? This is a difficult story to follow. I don't know how I feel about this. So Jordan Healy is a crazy person who rides the subway. Now, that's how I describe him, but a sympathetic left-leaning media seems to be describing him as lovable Michael Jackson impersonator. Like, apparently for years, this guy was doing Michael Jackson impersonations. But whatever. He's a crazy homeless person who, basically lives on the subways. So apparently he's on the subway. And he's yelling. He's not doing his Michael Jackson act. I mean, I've never seen this Michael Jackson act, the one where Michael Jackson screams and demands money from passengers and all that kind of stuff. But he was obviously in mental crisis. That's something that needs to be recognized first and foremost. Jordan Healy was having a moment, and some dude just, I've had enough of this, stands up, puts him in a guillotine, and chokes him out right there in front of everybody on the train. Well, he died, and so now that's a murder. And now, well, let me give you the story here. This is why you're going to be hearing the name Jordan Healy. Thank God this dude wasn't a cop. This dude's just a dude. Just a dude who watches UFC, who knows how to sink a guillotine from behind. A choke. A simple choke. It's a simple choke. Not even a guillotine. It's a simple choke. Outrage mounts over chokehold death of Michael Jackson impersonator. Okay, he wasn't dressed like Michael Jackson. He wasn't doing a Michael Jackson impersonation. He wasn't. Maybe in years past he was. This was just a crazy man dressed in, crazy man clothes, screaming on the train. But when you call him a Michael Jackson impersonator, it makes it seem like, way more cut and dry. This person was murdered for being a Michael Jackson impersonator? No way. No, that's not exactly what happened. As a matter of fact, I dare say that the person who choked him out had no idea this dude was a Michael Jackson impersonator. It means nothing. You're being manipulated, New York Times. New York Post. Oh, they're the worst. New York Post. Everything is a manipulation with them. Outrage is mounting over the death of a homeless, mentally disturbed Michael Jackson impersonator who died on a Manhattan subway train in a caught-on-camera clash with a U.S. Marine who put him in a chokehold. Friends and elected officials decried the death of Jordan Neely on Wednesday, insisting the homeless busker didn't deserve to die. Neely, 30, was a familiar sight around town, performing in Times Square and on subways as Michael Jackson. New York City is not Gotham. City Controller Brad Lander tweeted, "We must not become a city where a mentally ill human can be choked to death by a vigilante without consequence." Well, okay. We are really jumping on the dude who put him in a chokehold. We don't know what was going on here. I saw the video of the dude. Well, I saw a piece of the video. I need to see a full video. I need to see some context of what was going on. But the dude was screaming and yelling, and I could totally understand how other people in the car might have felt threatened or might have felt like, okay, this could go bad because this guy's obviously crazy and he's ranting and raving and he's building up to something. So, everybody wants to be a hero. So 24-year-old Marine sneaks up from behind him, puts him in a chokehold, kills him. Chokes him out so bad that he's dead. I don't know. This is a complicated one. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why we have judges, why we have juries, and why we have trials. Because this is a very complicated. I can understand the motivation, but I'm also the guy that's like, why are you trying to be a hero? Why are you? You want to be? How do you think this is gonna go? You're gonna choke him out. You're gonna lay him down, and then that cute girl in the car over there. She's gonna be like, "Oh, this is our meet cute. This is how we met. This is our rom-com moment. He choked a bum out on front." You know what I mean? That's not how it's gonna go. You're gonna choke the guy out. You're gonna spend the next 12 hours at the police station. Now your name is going to be everywhere. Everyone in New York, half the people think you're a murderer. The other half think you're a... It's just not going to go. This was a bad decision. Should have just put your earbuds back in and ignored it. I mean, obviously, if he puts his hands on somebody, then you got to take him down. But, you just got to let people be crazy. If we are not going to take care of our crazy people, and nobody wants to take care of our crazy people, that's fine. That's, we're just going to have crazy people then. And we're just going to have to navigate a world where crazy people are just going to pop out from everywhere. Just, excuse me, crazy person. As a semi-crazy person, I would like to see some kind of dedication to, trying to help these people. But whatever, a society just littered with crazy people, bumping into each other, walking around, going into freaking dicks and buying guns because I'm crazy. I mean, crazy people, if they're just going to be a thing in society, fine. I would like to see a different path pursued. I would like to see maybe let's bring back institutions. Reagan got rid of all the mental institutions. That's where the homeless problem in this country started from. We used to have mental houses. We used to have places where crazy people could go. We used to keep them there. And then Reagan was like, that's too expensive. Fuck them people. And he emptied them all out. And that's when the homeless situation in America began because these crazy people didn't have anywhere to go. So now the streets are just filled with crazy people. Some of them do spectacular Michael Jackson impersonations. Let's Let's see here. How about this one? How about CEO pay? You guys knew I wasn't going to let this story go by today. This story came out. Despite inflation, top U.S. CEOs' pay rose almost 17% over the last year. Whoa! Well, of course it did. Of course it did, Mr. CEO. Just because everybody else is struggling and just because your company is struggling and that's why you had to raise your prices, that's no reason that you shouldn't get a on average, 17% raise, Mr. Rich Guy CEO. I mean, I know you laid off about 20% of your workforce, but that didn't stop you from getting a raise. By the way, in Texas yesterday, this was a fun little, they're working us, people. This was a fun little thing. So on Tuesday, today's Thursday. So on Tuesday, the Texas legislator just destroyed a minimum wage bill, a bill that would give minimum wage workers more protections. They just destroyed it. The Texas State House. They're like, get that bullshit out of here. And look, you know what I mean? They just got that thing out of there. That was on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the Texas legislature unanimously agreed to give them themselves all raises. So there you go. On Wednesday, we all get the raises. But on Tuesday, you can't give them more than $3 an hour for minimum wage and make them think that they're the government with their hands out and their government monies and shut up. Oh, shut up, idiots. Then the next thing we'll be voting on is whether or not we should give ourselves raises. Who says no? And nobody said no. They all got raises. CEOs, all the CEOs got raises last year too. By the way, 17% outpacing inflation by a good 10%. So they didn't just give their CEOs raises to keep pace with the rate of inflation, something that they're unwilling to do for their middle class workers. They gave themselves 10% on top of that. They're like, okay, let's keep us in pace with inflation. But then come on, something. I'm a rich guy. These two Lear jets don't fuel themselves up, It's crazy. Anyway, and you're all used to it. You're all fine with it. You're all just like, well, that's just how it goes. No, that's not just how it goes. It's not just how it goes. People need to get mad about the right things. People mad about stupid shit. Mad about... I'm not saying we all go vote for Bernie Sanders because that old man's crazy. I ain't voting for Bernie Sanders either. He's crazy. Bernie Sanders ain't fun. Bernie Sanders is weird. But I'm telling you, he's got some points about the way these people have been gaming us for years and years, and we've been programmed to the point where we just accept it as the way things are. That's normal. Sky is up, the ground is below. Those are facts. That's true. Water is wet. Fire is hot. Those are facts. Rich people are allowed to completely bend over the rest of us whenever the hell they want in this country, and we all go, that's okay, because one day maybe I'll be rich and I'll be just like them. That's it. Mansion in the hill, you bitches. You ain't never going to live in that mansion. You ain't never going to be a part of that country club. And if you do somehow get into that country club, these people don't want you. You don't come from them. You don't understand. We have an undeclared caste system in this country. And everybody knows it, but nobody puts a label on it. CEOs giving themselves raises. Speaking of another CEO, Barstool. Barstool Sports is trending. I like Barstool. Well, okay, so let me be clear. Barstool Sports content is moronic. It is lowest common denominator sports. Are you 13, have no sense, and kind of like sports? Have I got a site for you? That's what Barstool is. It's fucking stupid. Stupid people's sports. It's not real sports. They got a couple of legitimately talented people associated with it, but it's stupid sports. It's not good sports. You know what you want to talk about? You know what good sports is? Good new media sports? McAfee, who got himself away from Barstool. He was like, yeah, I don't have anything to do with Barstool. Those guys are kind of idiots. So anyway, Barstool Sports is trending because, their hero there, that Dave Portnoy guy who runs it, who is such an asshole. I mean, again, you go, I'm a Boston guy. I'm a tough guy. I'm like 110 pounds, but you know what? I'm a tough guy from Boston. He's that. Get out of here, you little bitch. You little stupid Boston bitch with your hard-ass attitude. You're a fucking nothing. Seriously. That's who Dave Portnoy. I just hate the whole, I'm a badass. No, you're not. No, you're not. Stop it. Stop it with the attitude. Hate him. God, he rubs me the wrong way. God, he's another one of these people. I don't get it. You see this guy, you see the way he presents, you see his body language, and you're like, he seems like a nice guy. No, he doesn't. He seems like an asshole who's only interested in what benefits him. And if you can't see that right out of the box, I don't know what to tell you, but that's my problem with Dave Portnoy. Having said all that about Barstool, and this is why I say I'm conflicted, I have so much respect for what they've done in the space of new media. Oh my God. Dave Portnoy, he started out as a guy that used to sell a printed, on paper, one sheet called Barstool Boston at Red Sox games. It was just a sports page that he wrote. We see it, there's a whole bunch of things like that in Chicago surrounding, Cubs. You go to Cubs. The Blue Line, famously, Blackhawks, you go there. Somebody will hand you a blue line. You'll pay for it. So that's where that's where Barstool came from. It started out as that, and it's good because he's a talented guy. He's a talented writer. And that attitude translates to sports page. It's pretty good. So he was good. So anyway, I have a lot of respect for the way they've been able to grow their business. They sold it to Penn, Equity, Penn, whatever. Sold for like hundreds of millions of dollars. So Portnoy's hundreds of millions of dollars. Good for him. I begrudge him nothing, man. I don't hate him because of that. I hate him because he seems like an asshole. He did it the right way. That dude wants to be CEO of his company and reap the rewards. He built that from nothing, man. He busted his ass. He was out there at Red Sox games, selling little pieces of paper to people. That's how he began. So I begrudge him nothing. He built something. That's the admiration that I have for that whole Barstool empire. Sold it for like hundreds of millions of dollars to the Penn Investment Group. Now, here's what happened. So Barstool was always, we're outside the mainstream. We can do whatever we want. We can't be canceled. That whole thing. They had that attitude. Well, now they're owned by a very big group that is heavily invested in legalized sports gambling, which is reliant upon certifications state by state. So the parent company now of Barstool has a lot to lose. So it isn't anymore, we can say whatever we want. No, you can't. No, you can't. Because you've got like this billionaire hedge fund company that is making all kinds of money off of you yahoos with sports gambling sites. And, they don't need to have their sports gambling licenses revoked because one of your Barstool idiots goes on like some racist rant, and then all of a sudden some legislator in Georgia who's on the council that approves these gambling licenses, you don't need that guy to go, they said racist stuff, I'm denying the license in Georgia. So now that's like $100 million a year because Barstool can say whatever they want. Well, Barstool can't say whatever they want. Somebody named Mincy. I don't know who Mincy is. Apparently, Mincy's very popular on Barstool. Mincy went on a rant where he started to rap, and in the course of the rap that he was singing, he said the N-word with the hard R. And boy, they had to fire him. And so everybody is like, that's not Barstool. All right. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but the camera, the whole computer just crashed. It said I had a full battery, and then it completely went down to 0 battery. So that ain't good. And the camera's not working. I don't know why the camera isn't working. Okay. Yeah, I know you can hear. Yeah, so the battery just died. It said there was 100%. Like I'm looking at it because I monitor the battery on this computer. The Dell computers. I'm sorry, man. I don't know. I'm sure that for people who do certain things on computers, maybe Dell brings them something that they need. But as far as just using it, the Dell computer sound is terrible. The charging ports are terrible. The cords always go bad. This thing said that I had 100% battery the entire time. It's plugged in, charging 100% battery. And then I'm in the middle of going off about Barstool, and the whole thing just crashes. And then I reboot, and it says I have 0 battery. I'm like, well, why were you telling me I had 100% battery? All right, let's see where we are at now. We're not charging. It's plugged in. It's plugged in. Okay, now it is charging. I'm at 9%, and let's see. 3 hours and 36 minutes to full charge. So that's a slow full charge. I don't know how much longer we're going to be able to do this show because this thing is a dying, folks. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're just going to run through. For 2 hours, we're going to make it over 2 hours. We're going to be fine. All right, so anyway, Barstool had to fire one of their guys, and Dave Portnoy is now doing these videos where he's like, I didn't want to fire him, but Penn made me fire him. Well, you cashed those checks, man. You knew that shit was going to change once you had the big money overlord come get involved in your business. You knew that you were not going to have the autonomy you enjoyed when it was just you guys slinging shit and saying whatever you want. So now everybody's upset with Barstool. How can you fire Mincy? You changed. Yeah, they changed. Dude's worth about $500 million now. Yeah, he's changed. People grow up. Dee Snider is trending. You know Dee Snider from Twisted Sister. We're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna take it. 8%. Yeah, we're going to lose this show really quickly here, folks. I'm sorry. We are crashing. Dee Snider is trending because Dee Snider has been, this big, we're not going to take it. That was an anthem for all these gay pride parades. But apparently Paul Stanley said something that was, I don't know. I read it. I thought it was fairly well thought out. I thought it was reasonable, and I thought it was a nice way to start a conversation about the whole trans thing. But because Paul Stanley didn't say exactly what they want him to say, he's anti-trans. But he's not. He's not. If you read the whole thing, it's like, okay, this is a considerate human being actually thinking through this issue and what the effects are. And I don't know. I thought it was a nice piece. Anyway, Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, who is super big on all of these issues, he liked Paul Stanley's comment. And so the San Francisco Gay Pride Parade, they're not going to allow the use of we're not going to take it anymore, even though the gay people have been using that as an anthem for decades. He liked something that Paul Stanley said, which, by the way, was, I thought, rather thoughtful. But if you're looking to be triggered, if you're looking to be made mad, yeah, you can be made mad by anything. But if you're going to be honest about, dialogue and conversations about complicating world-changing issues, the world shifts. The world changed. We evolve. We have to have conversations about these things. No, apparently we're not allowed to have conversations about this one specific thing. You must agree 100% with whatever they're telling you to believe. No, see, that's not how I do it. It's not how I do it. I have no hate in my heart, and I have no judgment for other people, but you cannot tell me that this is not a new thing and that we shouldn't talk it through. Dee Snider, he's not going to be allowed to talk it through. Dee Snider's gone. Jeffrey Toobin, I want to show this. I want to show this, and I'm afraid that we're going to run out of power, But damn it, Jeffrey Toobin. You know Jeffrey Toobin. He was. You know what? I'm going to save this. I'm going to save the Jeffrey Toobin thing for tonight's Pugs and Parker. We can watch it. Jeffrey Toobin, you know, he was the legal analyst for CNN for like decades and decades. And he also worked at the New Yorker. And during the pandemic, they were having a New Yorker staff meeting via Zoom because everybody had to stay in their houses because remember, pandemic. And apparently during the Zoom meeting, Jeffrey Toobin started jerking off right there on camera in front of all of his coworkers. Boy, that says a lot about you. That says a lot about Jeffrey Toobin. Holy cow. I mean, look, well, everybody jerks off, and not in front of their coworkers. And here's what makes it even worse. Jeffrey Toobin's talking about it now. He was on with Dan Abrams, and he's got some new book out, but it's not about that. But Dan Abrams was like, hey, how about the time you jerked off in front of your coworkers and totally ruined your career? And Jeffrey Toobin talked about it. Now, we've got audio of it, and we can listen to it, but we're going to listen to it tonight at 9 o'clock because, as I said, the battery here is dying. This is not battery. We're gonna go dark any second now. What else? Hold on. So Jeffrey Toobin. So he keeps making, this is not the good point that he thinks it is. He keeps making the point in the conversation about him getting caught jerking off. He keeps making the point that he didn't do it intentionally. He didn't know that they could see. He says he didn't know that they could see. Like, I didn't know that they could see. That's not a defense. That is not a defense, you pervert. So you're like a closet creeper, is what you're saying. You weren't even upfront about your weird sexual peccadillo. Like, if you just, like, turned the camera on and was like, hey, what do you guys think of this? What about you over in the sports department of the New Yorker in this meeting? What do you think of this? Like, he didn't do that. That you could almost go, well, he's a crazy person, but at least he's above board about what he's going. No, he didn't think anybody could see him. He was doing it. Yeah. Tell me more about your expose on AOC. Tell me about how that editorial is going to flow. Yeah, he's being weird about it. So anyway, he's talking about it. We're going to play that video. We'll play that audio tonight with Parker. Jeffrey Toobin. They got fired from the New Yorker. Obviously. Even if they don't fire you after that, you have to quit. You can't walk back into that office as the guy that everyone saw. Man, all right, here's what I'm going to do, because I'm not prepared for this just now. We'll play the audio tonight at 9 o'clock. James and I will go through it. And I'm going to do a deep dive on that entire situation. I'm going to, because I need to refresh my memory. Like, people must have talked about it, right? What, why was he doing? It's fine. It's fine. Masturbation is fine. That's fine. That's fine. But you're a pervert if you need to heighten the situation by dabbling in risk. And that's what this was. This was a risky sexual adventure for Jeffrey Toobin. That tells me a lot about this weirdo, which is why I will never listen to him again. I know. Separate the art from the artist. Nah, this is different. He's a pervert. The artist itself is the pervert. Jeffrey Toobin. You should be able to come back from it. He could have owned it in such a better way. But this whole thing like, I didn't know that they could see. That's not a defense, Jeffrey. That makes it worse. That you thought you were doing this because that's your kink. That's what it is. Like people to know what you're into. Because you're sort of like, kind of chubby and kind of old, not handsome, kind of. He's got some very It's Pat qualities. You remember It's Pat? And Jeffrey Toobin's got some real It's Pat qualities. And he's like, oh, God, you weird sex creep. Ugh. And again, this is not about masturbation. Everybody does it. I mean, Pornhub is the #1 visited site on there. Obviously, everyone does it. But not everybody does it in front of their coworkers when they don't believe their coworkers know what they're doing. I'm being a bad boy. Ooh, I'm a naughty Toobin. It was, ugh. So I don't want to see that guy on TV anymore. I know too much about him. Not into it. Yellowstone is trending because yesterday we talked about the story how Kevin Costner is going through a divorce. That's right. His beautiful young wife, he's trading her in for a new model, I guess. But that was yesterday. He's going through a divorce. Today, it's been made official. He will return for limited appearances in the second half of season 5 of Yellowstone. But John Dutton's going away. That's right. The Kevin Costner character will be retired. That's what they're saying. I don't know. He's like the governor now, right? He's the governor of Wyoming. Isn't that what John Dutton is now on Yellowstone? He's the governor. So I imagine something's going to happen there. Like maybe he'll die. It's a bloody state. A lot of bad things happen up there. You think nothing happens in that state? Watch Yellowstone. You'll be like, Jesus, this is like Brooklyn in the 1950s. This is like mob warfare going on up here. I like Yellowstone. I'm going to miss Kevin Costner. I'm going to miss John Dutton. But, hey, they got a new spinoff, which is, I hope it takes place in the same timeline as the current iteration of Yellowstone. And it's going to star Matthew McConaughey. And that's great. That is great. I love Matthew McConaughey. I think he'll be tremendous in whatever lead role for Taylor Sheridan that he creates. I'm done with the 1883s and the 1923s and all that. Let's get back to modern times. Okay? That's fine. I don't need... What's McConaughey going to be? Is it going to be the next series going to be like in 1963? What was happening in 1963 in Wyoming that is vastly different than do we need to? I don't know, but I'm excited about that. The new Matthew McConaughey version. Messi talked yesterday about Lionel Messi, Argentinian superstar of the world of hockey. I almost said hockey. Superstar in the world of soccer. He's left his club, Paris Saint-Germain. Paris, he left his team in Paris. He's like, I don't want to be here no more. That was a French accent. I don't believe he's got a French accent. As I said, he's Argentinian. Apparently he's going to Saudi Arabia. Are you ready for this? Soccer? Ready? Oh, it's just stupid soccer. He's going to Saudi. Lionel Messi. Going to go to Saudi Arabia. Going to play for some Saudi prince in Saudi Arabia. $400 million a year. That's right, $400 million a year. Not, remember A-Rod? Remember A-Rod signed for $250 million over 10 years? It was like some crazy thing, but it was like $250 million. This is $400 million to Messi to play soccer, to play kicky ball out of bounds. $400 million as the Saudis continue their campaign to sports wash their horrible human rights reputation. We're just going to do really good sports, and then we're going to lop people's heads off. But then you're going to forget about that because we're going to do really good sports. What else do we have here? Folks, that's about it. It looks like we are going to make it. How much time do we have left on this battery? We're down to 7 minutes. We are down to 7 minutes. All right, folks, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back tonight for Pugs and Parker proudly present Pillow Talk. E will not be with us, but he will be checking in. He's out there. He's out there rolling around on his way to... Actually, he's in Louisville. He's in Louisville for the Kentucky Derby. So I'm sure that he'll have some interesting takes. We'll talk to him a little bit today. Plus, I want to we'll get into the whole Jeffrey Toobin thing that I didn't get to do here. There's some video. We'll break that down. I feel better doing that with Parker anyway. And that's it. We'll see you back here tomorrow at noon for more High Noon. We do this each and every day, noon till, just about whenever. Hot topics, current events, trends, all the stuff you need to know. Tip the show, please. Help out the show, please. So I'll say, if you haven't yet, please try. Thank you to those who have. The fate of the show is absolutely, legitimately in peril. All right, love you guys. We'll definitely do a show tomorrow. Boop, boop, boop. And, no promises. Okay, bye, folks.
smile.